Hi guys, so today we're looking at a 6-mark question. Now you're going to see more of these in an exam than the 9 markers, so it's a really good idea to have kind of a strategy up your sleeve as to how to approach them. Don't worry, don't get too stressed out or anything, they're really nice. Often they're the easier, kind of longer answers to go to. So we're going to have a go at this with a paper 2 example, but a nice one. So the question we're going to look at, or use as an example, is tourism. So this is a statement question. These pop up quite often. Tourism is an effective way of reducing the development gap. Now, I can see how some students would read that and maybe just want to skip it if they felt they weren't really sure what the development gap was, or they didn't feel they knew a lot about tourism. But I'm going to show you a really easy way to bug this question, and that will help you figure out what it is you need to do. And it links perfectly to another video I made on Jamaica, although you could get a figure with a completely different country. So, you might not need to just write about your one case study. So I'm going to underline the keywords. So we've got tourism, we've got effective, and we've got, I'm just going to underline all of that, reducing the development gap. Okay. Now, next to it, I'm not going to put anything too much for tourism because hopefully you'll understand what that is. Effective, so we're looking at kind of how much is that effective. All right, is it really effective, or is it not a very good strategy? Okay, that's what this is saying. So, and then reducing the development gap. So the development gap is what exists between low-income countries to newly emerging economies to high-income countries. It's this kind of gap between them, and things like life expectancy, healthcare, wealth, it's all in there. Now, very often this kind of question will come with a "do you agree?" Okay, and in the past we've even seen that you have to tick a box for yes or no. So you might need to actually do that. Now, I'm going to put a tick in yes because I believe it is an effective strategy. However, we never want to go all in on that. We want to break it so that we are kind of on the fence, and we're going to say why it is a good strategy and why it's not. Okay, so it's 6 marks. Now, this I would always suggest is about 2 what I call chunky paragraphs. These are not your short versions that you might use for, say, a 4 marker, but remember there's no conclusion with a 6 marker. You do not need a conclusion, so don't get hung up on that. Okay, you will, however, need a case study for this one. Okay, so number 1, we've done it already. Bug the question. Okay, we've boxed, or haven't really boxed actually, but we've underlined and glanced at the marks and thought about what we're doing. If it was a to what extent, I would box that, but it isn't. It's a statement and a yes or a no. So bug the question and use a case study. Okay, whichever one you've been taught. We do Jamaica. So what I'm going to actually do for you here is I'm going to go through the whole answer. I'm going to give it to you so that you have it as if it was worth all 6 marks. And the trick I do, so we'll have paragraph 1 over here, and I'll put paragraph 2 there. Okay, is I do on one hand, on the other hand. Okay, and I'm literally showing you this with my hands. But basically we're going to have a paragraph 1 and will all be about how it is amazing and it can reduce the development gap and it's so good. And then paragraph 2 will be however on the other hand, and we'll give the negatives. Okay, so we are going to have point here. Remember, we do point, evidence, explain. Okay, and we'll start with our point there. Right, I'll do this in red for you so it stands out a bit. So remember, we're going to go on one hand. Okay, showing the examiner that we're thinking about this from both angles. This one will be on the other hand. Okay, so let's start with this one. Paragraph 1 is going to be the kind of positives. Paragraph 2 can be our negatives. So on one hand, let's get our case study in there straight away. Jamaica has shown, I'm going to write this as if, I'm going to write this fully for you, that tourism is an effective method. Look how I use the word effective, because it's in there, it's one of our key buzzwords. Method to close the development gap. And that's because many countries around the world, that says gap by the way, okay, close the development gap. Many countries around the world have used it as a very quick method to get richer. Okay, then we're going to go in with our evidence. Okay, I know we've said Jamaica, but we haven't given any evidence. So we want to say every year, and again, this is from my other video on Jamaica, 2.5 million visitors travel to Jamaica by plane. Now that's important, okay, because if they're coming by plane, they need somewhere to stay. So they're going to be spending money on accommodation. And 1.1 million by cruise ship. And that's important later on because that is a kind of negative, okay, because it's often all inclusive. So every year 2.5 million visitors travel to Jamaica by plane and 1.1 million by cruise ship, comma, spending, let's get some more data in there, a total of $200 million direct into the local economy. Okay, and Jamaica's not corrupt. The money's going straight in there, so it's really good news, and it's massively beneficial. But we have got to explain that. So if we just write explain, okay, because the examiner's not going to know what you mean. You've got to explain it. Can't assume anything. So we need to use my favourite little words. This means that. My second favourite is this. This is because. But yeah, this means that the Jamaican government. This means that the Jamaican government is able to make improvements to infrastructure, comma, there's loads of things, healthcare and education. So by doing those things, it's going to improve the life expectancy, it's going to reduce unemployment, it's going to have a direct impact on the development of the country. So we need to say that. So this means that Jamaican government will make improvements to infrastructure, healthcare and education, directly improving life expectancy, and we'll just put quality of life because I'm running out of space. But you could really explain that. You could write quite a bit more if you wanted to. Just realised I've left myself very little space on this side, so I might have to be a little briefer on this one. Right, on the other hand, so this is paragraph 2, separate it but don't give away too much space. On the other hand, not everybody benefits. Okay, that's the key message. Not everybody benefits. Let's go evidence. What do I mean by that? Okay, 16% of Jamaicans let's put 16% of Jamaicans live in poverty. Okay, they're living in poverty. That means on less than around $2 a day. Okay, serious poverty. And that's in the south of the island. That's because they've improved the infrastructure and resources and services in the north to cope with the cruise ships and the ports and the airport. But in the south, they've still got mud roads, dirt tracks, difficult access, poor healthcare and schools and so on. Okay, so that's our big bit of evidence. Let's explain that, because again, you won't get full marks unless you say, this is because. That's my other favourite 3 words. This is because. And the reason for this is much of the money basically goes straight to the travel companies. So if you're in the UK, for example, and you book a cruise, you're essentially, all inclusive, okay? And therefore, the money's not going to go to the local people. So this is because much of the money goes straight to the travel company. And cruise ships particularly. So we look about 1.1 million people, so just around about a third of their visitors. Okay, the money isn't getting to them. And cruise ships, we want to say, what's the money go straight to the company? Cruise ships in all inclusive packages. This means that tourists basically aren't spending. Okay, so tourists do not spend as much in the, we'll call it wider economy, but what I mean is they're not therefore paying for accommodation or restaurants if they're getting their food and their accommodation on board the boat. Okay, so that should, I'm saying that like I'm not confident, I am confident, that would get you full marks if you remembered your case study and you remembered those facts. I hope that's helpful.